even though they paint the building, the teachers are still not teaching the children.
Well, again, right? Like I think this is a broader, like this is a broader challenge and a broader structural issue with education, right? Like some folks in schools, some folks in other places, right? Like I think the one of the challenges with ed is that a lot of times in schools or a lot of times in places you have to teach to test, and that style of education is just problematic, right? Like, because it's performance driven and not really driven in the kids having a strong concept of the material. So
A
a
lot
lot
of
of
parents,
community-based
a lot of
organizations, a
parents
lot
tell
of
me
folks have
that
been trying to change that.
a lot of teachers tell me they can't teach the black kids because the black kids are so out of order. They can't contain them or control them because they're like acting out in classes. They're threatening the teachers. They won't respect the adults. How do you deal with that kind of stuff?
Well, I think well, for one, right, like I think that's highly problematic. To give you an example, I, as a community-based educator, while I was working with SJLI, and now in my new position as the manager of the Brother Son Selves Coalition, we work with young people who have been pushed out of schools. We had worked with young people who were literally incarcerated in juvenile hall,
Right.
right? And we were able to manage our classrooms and stuff just fine. I think oftentimes there's an underlying assumption that people walk into in those classrooms that these kids can't learn, so I'm going to treat them as that. But if you don't walk in with that assumption and you walk in with something like our friends from Californians for Justice would call a relationship-centered approach, right, then it's much more easier to engage young people and to teach them, right? Like, but the issue is that when you have educators, when you have adults specifically who don't necessarily want to invest and don't want to build relationships with young people because you don't care about them or you don't like them, then that becomes the problem.
Is that a
And kids are
problem?
going to respond.
Is that a problem? A lot of the black teachers, they don't feel like dealing with those kind of kids.
Well, I mean, I wouldn't even just say that's a black teacher thing. I think that's a
But that's who
broader.
mostly complain about the black kids are the black teachers,
No,
and
I would say
especially the black female teachers.
I would say that's a teacher thing. I would say that's a broader, because again, right, like if we look at, for example, if we look at some of the data on school suspensions, right, like the data on school suspensions would suggest that the majority of people being suspended are black kids, particularly black boys,
Right.
right? But oftentimes, black boys are suspended for violations that other kids might get detention for, other kids might just get sent out the classroom for. So again, this isn't just all black teachers doing that, because if so, it would be really low because the vast majority of America's teaching force is still white and female.